Riley with the double saves, some potential Manchester City blushes. Plymouth Argyle, they've had a great journey in the FA Cup this year, but they bow out to the defending Premier League 4-peat champions. We're going to review the game. We want to get your takes, your views, your opinions on it in the comment section below. Welcome to the Football Terrace and the full fan highlights. Let's go. Congratulations, first of all, to Manchester City. 3-1 victors on the night. The show certainly belongs to the young man on the screen. You can see young O'Reilly. Solid performance from him. A brace, 2 goals, headers from set pieces. Really and truly saving Man City, who, although they had lots of the ball, they had lots of opportunities, loads of corners, loads of set pieces, they weren't really looking like putting the ball into the back of the net. Hazard in goal was pulling off phenomenal saves. The back three for Plymouth Argyle were like an absolute wall. And this young man stepped up when Manchester City needed him, saved some blushes, puts them through to the next round. Of course, a very late cherry on top of the icing, a through ball from Haaland into KDB to put it away when the game was already won. But yeah, very, very impressive night for the young man O'Reilly. So massive congratulations to him. Quite a few people on socials talking about it was a foul. He pushed his opponent. Listen, that's not a foul at the end. Yes, he's pushing the guy off of him. He's also grabbing him and they're fighting. I didn't think the push the other week, the Liverpool player on the Wolves defender, I forget who the names of each one were now. That wasn't a foul. The little nudge in the back of Konate against Everton, that wasn't a foul. I'm keeping the energy 100. I don't think that was either. What I would say is that, you can get away with those kind of pushes in the box now. More attackers have got to do it. Stop going down, hoping for a penalty, which is rarely given. Start pushing your opponents back. Well done to O'Reilly for doing it. Absolutely. If he'd have just, and gone down and thrown, like, arched his back and done if he would have gone and done a Ashley Young, arched his back like Bonnie Blue, threw his legs in the air like a swan, then, I don't know why I said swan. They call it a swan dive, didn't they? If he would have done that and dived like a salmon, he wouldn't have scored. We'd probably be in extra time right now, and he'd have been ridiculed. So he did the absolute right thing, 110%. So big up to O'Reilly. Deserved the man of the match award. Stunning performance from a young teenager in the FA Cup. I do want to take a minute or so, though, to congratulate Plymouth Argyle. This is a very small club. First time, only the 3rd time in their history at this stage of the FA Cup. Maybe the 4th time. 3rd or 4th time. They've knocked out Brentford. They knocked out the best team in the world at the moment, Liverpool. And they really did give it a good go tonight. I feel that if this game was away from home, it may have been a little different. If they'd have had that home crowd, smaller pitch, a bit more of a raucous atmosphere, it could have been difficult or more difficult for City, because it was a difficult game for them. There's no doubt about it. But look, it is what it is. It's the draw. It was at the Etihad. They gave a very good account of themselves. They made themselves, I think they've done themselves proud. It's been a great cup run for them. The beauty of the FA Cup, the magic of the FA Cup is still alive. But yes, I wanted to take a moment just to congratulate Plymouth for their run. It does come to an end now. But listen, some teams go as far as Plymouth in this tournament, but they play fellow Championship, League One, League Two, non-league sides. To have 3 very good to world-class Premier League teams back-to-back is a hard cup draw. And as I say, they took the lead tonight. First time they've ever played Man City in their history. First time they've ever played a team who's managed by someone as good as Pep Guardiola at this point in his career at their ground. Yeah, just phenomenal. Really, really, really phenomenal. And Ola here says, well done, Plymouth Argyle, my local team. And I love it. What was really funny about the game, what I really loved about it is I was listening to the crowd, right? It does tell me, listen, football is open to everybody. I don't want to gatekeep football here, but I'm going to gatekeep a little bit. We should stop people watching football that don't understand sarcasm and that do not have a sense of humor. They should be banned from watching football. I was watching some City fans online and some football fans in general, and they were saying, I can't believe they were saying this, but they were. Well, how disrespectful of the Plymouth fans to be olaying the passes at 0-0. Bro, they were taking the piss out of themselves. They're essentially saying, we're so shit, you've let us put 3 or 4 passes together. They were enjoying themselves. I couldn't believe it. Genuinely couldn't believe it. Someone said it was 3-2. Have I not changed the... I've changed the overlays. 3-1. Yeah, I've changed the overlays. It was also 3-1 City. Did I not say it was 3-1 City? It says it everywhere else. But yes, the lack of people understanding irony is a killer to me. Again, if I ruled the world, and it's if Terry Flewers ruled the world, genuinely, I would stop people watching football that don't understand irony. Because I think a great part of football is irony, really. So fair play to them. Terry, it's Ramadan, and I am watching haram football. Did you think that today about City? You actually commented earlier, and I want to see what you said here because I didn't put it up. Here it is. Terry, I'm bored of watching this type of football. O'Reilly saved us. Forest next in the Premier League. Yeah, listen, I understand. From a City point of view, I don't think City fans will celebrate the win tonight, and you absolutely should. In terms of performance, I don't think any City fans looking at this and saying corners turned. Depending on who you get in that quarterfinal draw. If you're away at Bournemouth, away at Newcastle, away at Brighton, away at Villa, you play like this, you're done. At home against them teams, you just got that punching power still with the squad that's worth over £1 billion, the investment that's been put in by your club. Other teams just cannot cope with that in any capacity. Most other teams can't cope with that. I'm talking outside the top 6. So at home, you've still got a chance. But you go away to any of those sides who are left in this tournament, they'll hurt you. They really will hurt you. So I get where you're coming from. I really do get where you're coming from. Tonight wasn't a great performance from City. Yes, there were chances, but I'm talking about the clinical edge. I'm talking about the ability to put a relegation-riddled championship side to the sword, and they really struggled. And I watched Man United last year go up against a mid to mid-high table Coventry team. We went 3-0 up, got to 3-3. We scraped through on penalties, and we were rightfully ridiculed. I've just watched Liverpool and City at times struggle to either create and or put the ball in the back of the net against one of the worst teams in the championship. You're absolutely right to be calling out the performance side of things. Celebrate the wins, celebrate on still being in, because if you're in it, you can win it. And that's the truth. You can still win this Man City, and you'll want to win it no matter how bad your season's been. Absolutely get it done. Like Bonnie Blue, how do you know? Well, because I was a young man once, and young men watch things they shouldn't. And you understand. Plus, again, I don't know how to say this without... How do I say this without being offensive? I've got 3 children, so I'm not a virgin like you. So I understand the concept of arching your back. I thought, I don't know how else to put it. It was a bit of a joke as well, by the way. When somebody tells a joke, don't take it literally like, oh my God, he watches Bonnie Blue. No, I wouldn't go on the internet and search that. But I know what she does. I know who she is. And I understand that that industry's a point to make a joke about it, my friend. Come on now. Wow. Terry, it's a boring weekend. So I don't look at it as a boring weekend. I've loved the games. I watched the Palace Millwall game. I thought it was really good. Preston versus Burnley was very entertaining. The Bournemouth Wolves game, Wolves shut in, dug their heels in deep. Went to it was a really good penalty shootout. I enjoyed tonight's game. Yes, I always felt City would win. That's why I put a little wager on City winning. But it was a good game. And tomorrow's matches are excellent. So I wouldn't call it a boring weekend. I'm a little bit of a football purist when it comes to the FA Cup. It's amazing. And I think that these types of football matches should be savoured as opposed to looked at as boring. Terry, they keep clean sheets against Brentford and Liverpool. Absolutely. No, they did a very good job. They did a very good job. Again, I think if they played at Anfield, it would have been different. I think if you played away at their ground, it could have been a different match. I've praised you for going through. But listen, the City fans in the comment section agree with me. They agree with me about the fact that it's that it wasn't a great performance. So yeah, I'm not slagging you off. I'm just speaking the truth as I see it. Pray for Mateta, Terry. Millwall a disgrace. Yeah, listen, the goalkeeper didn't mean to do what he did. I'm going to do some content on that tomorrow because there's something crazy I've learned about, not learned about it, but saw during that moment. The goalkeeper didn't mean it, but it was reckless. Rightfully got a red card. The fact that Millwall fans were singing that they hope he dies, that football club. Listen, I'm going to be blunt with you. I wouldn't stand outside the Den and say this in front of loads of Millwall fans because I love my children too much to end up dead. But some of their supporters, I won't say all, because I know a few Millwall fans who are decent blokes, to be honest. I know a couple through life. But there are a percentage of Millwall fans who are absolutely vile. And to sing something like that is just... yeah, as Sean here says, that fan base is stuck in the 80s. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Just horrendous. Rahman here says, I'd rather play Bournemouth at home next round. We struggle in away games. They beat us earlier in the season. I'm a bit like you, Rahman. Like, we've got Fulham. We've got to get past them first. But I was happy we had them at home rather. I would rather get more difficult teams in the quarterfinals at home then go away to them or play them in a neutral ground. I feel like Man United playing a Bournemouth, a Newcastle, a Brighton in a neutral or away ground, I feel like we're done. I feel we're done. And I think City, listen, even though Man United beat you last, City are still better than Man United, in my opinion, by a long way. But yeah, I'm a bit like you. I'd rather get Bournemouth at home than get them in a semi-final, if I had to pick. They were like, right, Terry, the hardest game remaining for you in this FA Cup is going to be Bournemouth. When do you want them? I'm saying at home in the quarterfinals rather than at a neutral ground or away from home. No, I totally agree with where you're coming from there. Absolutely, people, make sure you hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Get that smash for us right now, please. People, we're going to bring out a couple of people for the panel here. Rose here, first of all, though, says, Terry, Man City would still win. Love Plymouth coach. So good looking with so much class. Well, yeah, look, I don't necessarily look at managers for their looks, but each to their own. You're entitled to do that. But yeah, look, you can still win this trophy. You're in it. You are good. It's a weird one because the media are going to put City and United as number 1 and number 2 favorites. I don't think that's fair on the other teams. The only advantage City and United have got over all the remaining participants is we've all been to Wembley and finals a lot more. Our fan bases are well versed to it, and the squads have been to a few. Like Man United have been to the last 2 FA Cup finals, as an example. Outside of that, I feel like, well, you could argue City are better than those teams because they're above most of them in the league. But I feel like the last 4 to 5 months, they've not been. So I think making City and United favourites, United and City fans that get hate for this, I kind of don't feel like we are. I feel like there are better current teams left in it than us in terms of the consistency of performances. But each to their own on that one. But it can be won by anybody remaining. That's what's quite cool about this. We're going to bring Hamza. I'm going to bring V out in a minute. V's on his hands-free in his car, people. So he's already called in before he was driving, and he's now driving. So we're going to have a chat with him. When Hamza's face appears on his camera, then I'll bring him in to speak. But V, I know you're driving, bro. You got yourselves on hand-free, which is great. What you saying about that game and performance, my man?
Yeah, hopefully the audio's clean and the headset I got in. But I was glad we were able to get the win before getting on the road. KDB sealing that with that late goal. But listen, Plymouth, tough team, Terry. Tough team. They've knocked out they knocked out the Giants. They knocked out European and English giants this year with Liverpool. So I didn't think it was going to be an easy game, especially with the form that we've had all season. And I tweeted this at the start. Like, it was really interesting to see the 11 that Pep selected. Like, it's because when you really look at who he chose to play and who he chose to rest, you're like, okay, is Pep kind of showing us who are going to be the key players to really start the important games, and who does he need to be careful with regards to managing minutes. But listen, I don't think we're ever going to look smoothly without Holland up front, or even Marmoush, who's going to get better with us. The putting in a Foden, or even having some swapping out with him and Savinho, it wouldn't work. Like we've grown too accustomed to Holland, and we'll see how we can make things work with Marmoush. But this game was always going to be one of those. Let's figure it out. Let's get the result with as minimum effort as possible. And credit to Plymouth, man. They actually made us have to fight for it. And the goal that they got to get every City fan stressed was an impressive one as well. They got one opportunity and they made it count, and then it was game on. But I'm glad we're moving on, because this is the trophy that we're playing for this season. And and I'll take the result and go. Critiques with regards to players, if you have to do it, or if others want to speak about it, sure. But I think Pep just tried to manage this with a different 11, and let's see how they perform. I'm not going to be overly critical of any of the players. I am impressed with Nico O'Reilly. To be honest with you, I think there's a player there playing out of position as well. But yeah, let's just take this and move. Let's take this win and move. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? I might be lagging. Apologies on this one. I'm on the road. Hey, did Terry drop? Listen, chat, I don't know what's happening there. I'm just glancing over. I don't know if you can hear me or if Terry was able to hear me. But yeah, that's the breakdown with regards to the FA Cup. This is the trophy that we want. This is the trophy that we need. So we'll play on for it. I don't know who we match up next with regards to when the draw comes out. FA Cup, top 4. Arsenal, don't slip up. Forest, don't slip up. Because if this Manchester City second, oh my gosh, heads are gonna have to roll. And I'm talking everybody above us or around us. If Manchester City finished second, lots of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, so I had a power surge my end, and all the power in my house went out. It's just come back on now, so I apologize for the drop off my end, people. I might even be lagging a little bit. It will come back in a moment. So yeah, hopefully everybody heard that. I had a power cut at the house. I'm back on again now. It literally power went off, power came straight back on. So I apologize. Yeah, if you guys end up coming second, there's going to be a lot of people frustrated and fuming. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. I get that completely. But what you said earlier, before my power went, you mentioned people critiquing City players. I look at it, the only element I'd really critique you for today is the lack of clinical edge in front of goal. But that really and truly, majority of the time came from players who the majority of you are saying you don't even want here next season anyway, or they've passed their best. So I feel like criticizing them again almost becomes it just becomes a sort of a bashing exercise as opposed to critiquing the team. If you've said, I know Gundogan, I know Bernardo Silva, I know they're past their best, I know they need to go, continuing to go, right, I need you to rip into them again for their lack of finishing today, I feel it's a bit futile of a thing to ask, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, how many times are you going to say it in a different way that Gundogan doesn't have the legs and he's not looking to be the player that he was before leaving? How many times are you going to tell us that Bernardo Silva looks like he's been ran into the ground, and the player that delivered for us with regards to the trouble season and the amount of great moments that he's done, even with regards to playing against Real Madrid, isn't there. Like I get all that. Pep still has to get some games out of these guys. If there's a game to do it, it's going to be versus Plymouth in this stage of the FA Cup. So let's stop. What's the phrase? Let's stop beating a dead horse. Like, let's take it and move on. And at the same time, let's also see I'm more importantly looking at the pattern of play to seeing whether we're getting it into these threatening positions and hope improved in terms of player quality. We get what we need done. But yeah, sometimes need to complain. This, in my opinion, isn't the game to do it. I already know rivals are going to want to go and, hey, what did Foden do today? Go ahead, do that as well. I think and we move. But hey, we're City. United get their criticism all the time, so will we.
The only thing I was going to ask you, it's not directly related to the match. I read a quote today that Pep Guardiola wants Ilkay Gundogan to sign another extension for another year. Would that be a mistake, in your opinion, to keep him for another season?
I'm trying to understand I'm trying to understand the reason for it. I really do. I know that there's a lot of talk about Gundogan moving on as for his coaching badges, and he's showing to have a great ability to have that be his next phase of career. But in terms of what he would have to do on the pitch for us, I don't see it. I don't see why we would want another on what he's able to offer, because I think he's only able to offer us that maybe once a week. I don't think he's playing in terms of that games every 3-day type schedule. And in the important ones, I don't even think he plays either. So I think it's something to have to do with his career beyond being a Manchester City player, and whether that's a player coach that Pep wants to keep close to the club, possibly. But it doesn't make sense to be with regards to playing week or game after game. It does not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, listen, I hear you on that. I'm a bit like you. I want to understand the rationale. Maybe if it's a case of, I understand it. Maybe if he already knows he's losing 3, 4, 5 really experienced players, you might want to keep somebody in and around the dressing room of a certain age and sort of leadership quality. But at the same time, it doesn't look too great. Hamza's here with us.
You know what, Terry?
Go on, mate. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'll say this one real quick, and shout out to Professor Hamza. Maybe it's also, how you need that leadership, or you need someone in the locker room that's a little bit of the relay, like the voice of the coach, and then also the voice of the players to get back and forth. Maybe that's the thinking here, but yeah, I don't know. But thanks for having me on. Appreciate you letting me speak while getting my little girl to ballet. Appreciate it. Take care, guys.
No worries, mate. Take care, bro. Thank you. And he did it the right way, V. I saw him backstage. He parked, called, and then drove. And I thought, fair play to him. Hamza, important win for you tonight. Maybe not the greatest of overall performances, but you got the job done. O'Reilly stepped up with a brace. You're through to the next round. Talk to me, brother.
Absolutely. FA Cup it can be surprising. We've seen what happened to Liverpool. They were beaten by this Plymouth Argyle. Thank God. Stopped them winning the treble. So Plymouth Argyle did us all a favor, me and you, Terry, man. We're the only football club that's got a treble.
Yep,
you can't get it now. And to me, they came in there. They were brave. I think I have to give credit to Plymouth Argyle. I think they they played very well. They came there with a tactic. Okay, fair enough. They only had one shot on target. The whole game we had 29 shots off target, and they had one. But they scored the goal, and they were very good. They had a very good defensive line. They had 5-4-1, and they played well. And I was impressed by some of their players. To me, I was a bit worried when we went 1-0 down. I said, you can't get knocked out to Plymouth Argyle. It's been a horrible season for us. And big up to some players who dig deep. And Pep Guardiola initially played without false nine, so he played Foden as a false nine. Foden wasn't good today as a false nine, but when he subbed Makati off and played Foden behind that, then he started working out. I think City have to be impressed. Grealish did well, but you expect it from him. You expected KDB to do well. He did well. But Plymouth Argyle were just tough to break. And I was blaming our set piece, how we conceded that goal, because we just concede set pieces so easy. And they had Makati to man mark the tallest player. This zone marking, which I hate from Man City, just doesn't make sense, you know. And they crossed the ball. Makati was marking the tallest player. What a header, 1-0. Come in, City luckily got that header from Nico O'Reilly. I think he was outstanding. Nico O'Reilly is normally a youngster who's a midfielder, but he's played well left back, and I think he's had a commanding lead in the left back. And I think I was really impressed. And he's got 2 goals, 2 headers from Nico O'Reilly. We're seeing why Chelsea are interested. He's got very high ceiling. That's why City refused to sell him. And I think he was brilliant. And the third goal, I think it was just we again had just a run in there, and Haaland crossed it, and De Bruyne scored it. But listen, performance wise, was this the best you could see from City? No, because City were just playing slowly, run left, right, and Plymouth Argyle were just comfortable with that. And you know what? We scored two set pieces, 2 set pieces to break them down. Was it a convincing win? No, but luckily we managed to go through. And I think Plymouth Argyle were brilliant today. Absolutely brilliant. And if you can fault them today, I think they were unlucky to have conceded 2 headers from those. And I think City today, was I impressed with the win? Listen, you're right. You said some few things like our play is just slow. The wings are just slow. Pass back, come back to midfield, go left, come back midfield, go right, come back to midfield, go left, come back to midfield. It's just we haven't got that fast attacking players who can punish people, and our wing backs, our left and right backs, don't like don't drive forward, like they go more into midfield rather than driving forward. So Pep I think has to change from that style. I think people have realized, listen, you can have the ball as much as you can, we'll pack the bus, and it's difficult to break.
You've also lost a lot of athleticism, and I watched KDB today. And look, some City fans go, "Oh, we battered them. We had all these shots. We had all these chances." They're a relegation side in the Championship. You should be all over them. But I would look at it more through the lens of when you're up against better footballing teams with more pace, with more power, with superior technical ability compared to Plymouth. How are you going to fare? And even with KDB today, he got in a few times. One of his shots was well saved by Hazard. But what you're seeing from KDB is a player that's lost. If you look at it from a percentage point of view, he's lost 10% power. He's lost 10% speed. And when you come to splitting hairs between you and teams in title races, the best teams in Europe, you're going to come second best with this squad as it is now, which is why that investment in January and then in the summer is going to be so important. You'll beat most of these teams. You'll still, with this squad, finish inside the top 4 this season, and you've turned that round. The January's been a good window for you, and you'll get it done because the technical ability is still so high. But I think what's being exposed here is nobody can rest on their laurels when it comes to the physical aspects of the game. And there are lots of boxers, for instance, that get to a certain age and they can still bob and weave well. They've still got the technique, but do you know what? A bit of that speed goes, a little bit maybe of that power goes, or the timing, not the power, but the timing goes a little bit, and they can't beat the best of the best. And I think that, of course, you won tonight. You look really strong, but you can just see the kind of flaws in your team. The positive thing for a City fan is this, though. You just know in the summer you're going to go out and you're going to address it. And the only thing that can go wrong is that you buy wrong, but you're actually going to go out and spend the money to add that quality, add that athleticism, and I think you'll be back to all guns blazing next year, in my personal opinion, mate.
I think 100%. I think, you know what? Listen, it reminded. I told many City fans, I said, listen, it's like that AC Milan of that aging squad. Remember the Yabstam, the Maldini, the Nesta, Pilo's 30s, Seydov's 30s, Shevchenko's 30s, Crespo's 30s, Inzaghi's 30s. And within a year, you just didn't see them. They're gone. Because what happens when you're 30-something years old, a year makes you much difference, big difference. Look at KDB last year. Impressive. Came back from injury, absolutely brilliant. And then you come back this summer, And either he didn't have a rest, he played straight. He went straight to the Euros as a 33-year-old, start playing the Euros, expected 2, 3 weeks off, come back in the summer. I think, we've got a lot of aging squad. You're right. Like Gundogan is 34. I think he's likely to stay. The reason you have to keep him in, listen, we got issues like in terms of 8 homegrown players. So if you're losing players like Kyle Walker, you can't lose Stones. You can't lose Ake because that's 3 homegrown players gone.
Mm.
Then you lose Jack Grealish. That's 4 homegrown players gone. So you can't just lose all those players. So to me, it's a tough decision. I said, like, listen, I heard that he wants to keep Gundogan. I think he's keeping Gundogan for experience, 100%. He has to keep John Stones for experience. I think 100%. I know John Stones and Ake injury prone. We saw John's Ake come back, and Ake's just limped out. I'm sorry. And you know what? We had poor planning, obviously, Terry. There's no doubt about it. The planning we had was poor. I said it to you before. Like the planning of losing Alvarez and not getting a backup starts then affecting players. And then we go in the same squad who are Kyle Walker's 33, 34 years old. You got the same issues you've been having for 2, 3 years where Ake and Stones are injured. But luckily, you've been saved because Akanji and Diaz are playing so many games. But guess what, Terry? It then starts affecting them. It has a domino effect because
No, I agree. Mate, I totally agree with you. And it's a team sport. And I'm sorry to interject, but I just want to say I agree because then it impacts people like Phil Foden because Phil Foden's not
facts.
aging, but then suddenly there's 2 or 3 players around him that can't move as quickly, don't pass the ball as
Yep.
quickly. You're a split second off here and there, and you guys were such a finely tuned machine in a few parts, a few cogs have broken, and I think it's had a knock-on effect to everybody really. So yeah, this summer's going to be absolutely massive in terms of who you bring in, but maintaining that floor or that ceiling of high quality technical ability, and then adding in that new pace, that new power. I mean, one of your fellow fans in here was talking about Rahman was saying he wants Belieber from Brighton, and that's exactly the type of profile of midfielder. Huge technical ability, great technician, good passer, but an engine for days, has that speed, can battle. I mean, hindsight's lucrative. Caicedo would have been perfect for the way you guys play football because he can go direct and go quickly. He can play in a team that absorbs at times if you're against really good teams. He can also play the possession-based stuff as well, and it's finding that new version of that really, because I know that you've got Rodri coming back. You don't know how anyone's going to be after an injury, and sometimes it takes a while because I remember Van Dijk came back, looked really good for 3 or 4 months, and then he went off the boil a little bit. And then it took him a while to get back to his absolute, because you might find that Rodri runs off a bit of adrenaline when he returns, and then aches and pains come in and everything else. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. There's no doubt about that whatsoever in relation to that. A few people calling out your second goal, saying that it shouldn't have stood. There was a push. What do you make of that personally?
I think it's one of those tiny little push, but it wasn't like fair enough if you. I would have felt sorry for Plymouth. I got to have considered that goal fair enough, but I thought it was a little push, and you see that kind of push. For example, I saw when Gabriel Magalhaes, when he scored at Etihad, when he scored that goal, he pushed Walker a little bit, and then he went for the header. So sometimes you give, sometimes you don't, but it wasn't that big physical push. So it's quite harsh because it's the opponent you're playing. So if you're scoring that kind of goal against Plymouth Argyle, you're like, okay, fair enough.
I agree with you. I don't think it's a penalty. I don't think it's a foul. We've seen in the last couple of weeks the precedent's been set. The push from the Liverpool player in the game against Wolves wasn't given as a foul. The push on Konate wasn't a foul. The pull overturned on Ashley Young. Yes, there was a little pull. But it was never enough for a penalty. And I'm glad they're being consistent with these little pushes and these little pulls. Whether you like the rule or not, I feel like almost becomes irrelevant. Be consistent. What they can't do, though, tomorrow is Man United score a goal from a corner, but then disallow it for a little push. That's when I'll get frustrated. Not because I think it's about keeping it consistent now.
But
so
then when you define a push, it then becomes harder that. Then what is a little push? What is a moderate push? That's when it becomes a big thing. So that's why football's changed for that handball. Is it behind the line? Is it a handball?
I
In the
don't think it's,
Champions League, it's
I don't
different
think it's
rules.
hard to tell, right? This example of O'Reilly's, they were face to face.
Yeah.
They're both grappling, and he's being held, so he pushes him off of him. No problem with that. I think it's always been praised when defended. The best I've ever seen do it was Gary Neville. Ball comes in high. Gary Neville was the best sometimes especially if he got caught out of position.
Yeah.
He would get underneath a fellow defender, and as they jump, he'd jump into them or he'd lean into them a little bit just to put them off their stride. Defenders get praised for it. So why can't attack? So for me, attackers, like the Konate situation, should be able to do the same. When it comes to pulls, I think all pulls that stop a player running should be pens.
Yeah.
However, if you start the season off by saying fleeting pulls that last a second or two are not fouls, you can't suddenly change it in the middle of February. So I think they are pretty consistent with those decisions, if I'm being honest. And I think the difference is if, for instance, the Plymouth player is about to head the ball and O'Reilly for no reason just pushes him really hard in the back, then yes, you give a foul for it. So I feel like there's a distinction between those things for me. But I want to ask you a question. You're down as the favourites with the bookies to win the FA Cup. Do you think you're the favourites, Hamza?
Yeah, because obviously you're Manchester City, so you're the team that should be winning the FA Cup 100%. But then you're looking at, thank God we're off after the Champions League. I said it's the best thing to have happened because the number of injuries would have got. So it's about managing with the squad. Hopefully that we get a favourable draw, push further a bit. You want to avoid the hardcore Newcastle away, Brighton away, Aston Villa away. That makes it a bit more difficult. Or United at home. So you want to get a draw around Etihad. So I prefer to get a draw around Etihad, a favourable draw. But you know what? If we get this season, it ends with a top 4, a trophy, I think, and then Arsenal don't win anything and they come second, we've had a way better season than them. We've had a better season than most teams other than Liverpool. So to me, if we get FA Cup plus 3rd or 4th, I think that's a good season that Pep can't be disappointed with.
Yeah, mate. Considering when you won, when you were in that period where you won 1 in 13,
1 in 13,
to end up in the Champions League position and winning an FA Cup from that point would be a phenomenal season. I agree. Look, mate, always a pleasure to sit and speak football with you. I want to thank all of our viewers, everyone who's hit the like button, everyone who's tuned in. We're back tomorrow. Been a bit of not an off day for me today, a bit of a day off for me today. I've only done this show. Back tomorrow though, I've got a big reaction to some lies from Liverpool about the treble. We're talking about that in the morning. Big match reactions tomorrow as well for some huge FA Cup games as well. So listen, everyone, make sure you're back
and
with
the
the Football
Champions
Terrace.
League, Arsenal, PSV. We're there. Make sure you add me if they lose, because I'm coming there.
Hang on. You're in the group chat.
I'm taking my leave for that.
You're in the group chat. The links are shared in the group chat. So if you win or draw or lose, you're free to come on. You're in the group chat. We put the links in every single one. All right then, brother. I'll see you then. People, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.